Welcome to the Amazing Authorities Podcast, where game changers, visionaries, and category leaders share how they built their brands, platforms, and global influence. Your host is Mitch Carson, international speaker, media strategist, and creator of the Instant Authority System. If you're ready to learn from those who've done it and want to become the go-to expert in your space, you're in the right place.
I love interviewing authors, and today's author, Christopher Choate, can write about nonfiction, but he chose the route of fiction. And I'm going to learn why in a second, and so will you. Christopher, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor to be here. I really am. I really, truly appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Well, and you've served our country for 24 years, I believe, and I want to say thank you on behalf of my citizenship as American. I know it sounds a bit corny, but thank you for your service. I come from a long line of military myself. My father was a Marine in Korea. My uncle was in the Mariana Islands as a bomber in World War II. And the list, I could tell the whole lineage, but it goes way back to the Civil War. Long line of military. I'm the only one because I was too young for Vietnam and too old for anything after that, after my knees gave out. So I missed that period of time. So what brought you to serve our country? I want to start there.
It'd be my dad. He was a gunner on a B-36, which you probably never heard of. He loved telling everybody it was the world's first intercontinental nuclear bomber. That was his phrase that I've heard a bunch. But he got me into a love of flying and also serving the country. And that led me to the Air Force so I could serve our country, which I wanted to do, and a love of flying.
Well, my uncle was on a B-36.
Oh, he was? Wow.
Yes. Yeah, he was a bombardier.
Bombardier. Oh, great. Oh, oh God.
He had planes all over his apartment in New York City.
Wow.
Until the day he passed, he moved into this apartment under rent control in New York back in 1947. After the war had ended, he finished up his education at Harvard and then found this tenement apartment. It was a one-bedroom apartment, optimal neighborhood. It's got to be $10,000 a month now, easily, because New York City is so expensive. But he was paying 200 and something before he died, and that was roughly 25 years ago. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and so I saw all these little model planes that he built around. He loved his military service. Was very proud of that. And you could bounce.
That is amazing. I wish I could have talked to I wish I could have met him and talked to him. I'm sure.
Well, I wish I could have met your dad too. It's interesting. It's a different generation.
Yes, definitely.
So your dad was your hero, your early hero, yes. I presume.
Absolutely. He not to belabor too long, but his dad was, I'm going to say a loser with a capital L. I mean, he left my dad's mom when she was young. And, of course, that was back when the social the infrastructure and the safety net wasn't there. So he ended up raising by his grandmother. So he raised me and my sister with no role model or anything, and did a great job. And I wish I was half the dad he was.
Wow. Well, that's impressive. And you're an author. You've written a fiction book about the future. Tell us about what inspired you to go that route, as opposed to I rarely interview fiction authors, largely nonfiction, who are in business and they're talking about their experience and they put it on paper.
Right. I started with Christmas newsletters, believe it or not. When word processors came out, I started writing Christmas newsletters, and I had no good deed goes unpunished. And people really enjoyed them, and they kept, particularly Dr. Ballesteros and his wife. She was a doctor as well. Wonderful parents of my family friend told me I had to write, and kept telling me and I told them when I got out of the Air Force I would do that, and I did, and I picked fiction, because a lot of people write about the Air Force, and I don't know that I did anything special. And I'm sure, like you, growing up, we didn't have the internet and this and that, and I was bored a lot. And it really helps your imagination when you're bored. And I just came up with some ideas, and it got to the point where the things in the world were going on. And this comes to the Pentagon time, the strategic planning, kind of looking at factors in the future. And I looked at, well, if we got to total absurdity, where would we go? And that became the catalyst for Apollo Wept. Was, if things kept going on this slope, where would we end up? And it's satire, so it's over the top, but that's kind of what led me to it.
Now, did you work for the Pentagon?
I was at the Pentagon for 3 years. Yes, sir. I was a strategic planner. I like to tell people I wasn't a strategic planner, but I did play one at the Pentagon.
Wow. I'm sure you've got some stories, man.
You know,
And
the biggest thing about the Pentagon was I dealt with some really smart people. I remember, I don't want to bore people too much, but I worked for a colonel who was a PhD from Yale. And he would sit there at the staff meeting, and his vocabulary, he would say words. I would look across to the major across from me, and we'd go, I think that meant good. I mean, his vocabulary was amazing. But so I met a lot of wonderful, really smart people, much smarter than I was.
and were you there during 9/11?
I left just before.
Wow. Proverbial dodge the bullet.
Yes, sir. Definitely. My office was on the other side, and my friends watching TV, the guys I worked with, and when the building shook, they said it shook, but they were on the far side, so they turned out to be okay.
Man, well, you did that. And after, so what inspired you to write this? But tell me about it and where, and it's going to be part of a trilogy, which is awesome.
Yeah, I actually wrote one really long book, and my editor says, for marketing, you're going to break it up into three. It just so happened I wrote it into thirds, if you will, so it worked out very nicely. Um, it's I, again, going to the absurdity here, if you will, and it goes back to kind of the cancel culture. It really concerned me when we tore down, found out we were tearing down statues to President Lincoln. That really, I just like, I understand, issues, and I try to think both sides of things. But he's our greatest president by far, and we're tearing statues down to him. We got a problem. And I was thinking, if it went to this, what would go to? And are you familiar with the Voyager probe? The
A
Voyager.
little bit. I remember
Okay.
it.
Okay. There's a golden plaque, and I don't go into too much detail because I'll give away my book here, but a golden plaque that has a male and a female on it. And, that's what's going out, and it's off into the cosmos. Well, if we're canceling everything, and again, you get into this and that, I said, well, it would be absurd, but what if someone decided that's too offensive and we need to get rid of that plaque because it says there are two genders? So my book is about us launching a ship to go out and to Voyager and replace that plaque with something that is more politically correct or more acceptable to our time today. And as absurd as that is, that's the basis for the book.
I love it. Well, I mean, I could certainly express. You know what? People get to have choice. Wonderful. We're in a free country. That's what makes America great. But when you have men and women's sports, I think that crosses the line.
And that's where this kind of goes. I have 68 identified genders and 101 sexual orientations. Now, again, yeah, I'm with you. People can do what you want. We're a free country, and I've always been fairly conservative. I grew up as in a Christian family, fairly conservative. As I get older, I'm very libertarian, I found. And you can do what you want, but like you say, there comes a line, and this line, there are two, there are X and XY. And when you start going off of that, and if you start thinking otherwise, you've crossed the line. And that's what this is in this book. We're in a Chinese spaceship because we're broke. So China has built us a ship called the USS Despair, and we're heading out to get this plaque and replace it off of Voyager because we don't want that to go to the cosmos saying there's only two genders. And again, I hope it's funny. I hope it's entertaining. I hope it's informative, but it is absurd. I mean, without any doubt about it.
Well, where are we going as a nation? I mean, you worked for the Pentagon. You were in strategy, and what's going on? What is going to happen? To the best of your ability.
That is a great
without getting me killed. I don't want to ask too many deep questions.
We were a strategic planning. I was there right before 9/11.
Right.
And we lived in the future, which was about where we are today. And it's really interesting. I don't know if you go back and look at some of the predictions. My favorite came from the Economist magazine in '84. They went out 10 years and they asked 16 individuals about what with just basic economic information like the growth rates, price of oil. And in 1994, they unsealed those. And their four groups were, if I can remember this right, was CEOs of multinational corporations, finance ministers, I think Oxford economic students, and here you go, four garbage collectors from London. And it turned out all of them were not even close, but the CEOs and the garbage collectors tied for first. So, the old Yogi Berra line, predictions are really difficult, especially about the future. Well, in that line, you bring up, and, I think today AI, where are we going and where the country's going? The budget deficit, it's got to stop at some point. And, that's the only bipartisan thing left in Washington is spending money. And, it's really easy to be pessimistic, but I think as you get older, you get more pessimistic. The good old days are behind us, and I think American ingenuity will be fine. But yeah, I'm getting to the age where you wonder. But no, does that answer your question? Because that was kind of roundabout, a little long.
They were a little roundabout. Well, a lot has changed in my years on the planet. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, I would say. So you were at the Pentagon right before 9/11.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That was a different time in America. My gosh.
It was. The world changed. The world changed on September 11th. There's, like you said, no doubt about it. It was just a whole different world, wasn't
it? TSA became an organizational, national security became an agency, etc. Everything changed. My gosh. The security tightened up, and I think it gave the CIA a purpose. It gave them, breathed new life into them. I mean, I could go down these. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. That isn't the purpose of this. But I started off with a comment about the pandemic. I mean, I believe that was orchestrated very well.
That was. Yes, I think in histories, and I think started coming out, but they're obviously, we were sold a bill of goods, and man, yeah. Hopefully we learned from it. I don't know we did. Hopefully we did.
I don't know what we learned. What was that? And that's well.
I don't.
Yeah,
we accepted things that as Americans we should never accepted, and I don't know if you've been to Florida lately, but when you come to the state line now, it's when you're leaving, it says thank you for visiting the free state of Florida. That's on our signs now.
Oh, my gosh. I heard about that. Wonderful.
As you leave, the free state of Florida. Yeah.
You got to give DeSantis some credit for making a stand. Like, we do not have to conform. Got to give him credit.
And it was not a popular one at the time either, was it? I mean, but yeah,
no.
I admire the guy for that. He definitely stood up to liberty and to individual responsibility, and we were headed down the wrong path. And some of our allies, I know some of the other countries, they went full up draconian there on some of their policies, and man, that's
California.
California is one, yes,
very strong, California, yes. And boy, it was an interesting time. It wasn't that far back. Have you thought about writing something about that arena, like maybe a plot, because that is recent, but it's almost forgotten. So many.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's how soon we forget. I've got a couple things I'm playing with. My next one's actually about the Tuskegee Airmen. I'm already started writing that. It's an alternative history. It won't make me any friends, I don't think, but I think it'd be a very interesting story because it's alternative history. Still working that. And another one to think about is online with what you said was just, as we lose individual freedom from something such as a COVID type event, and you lose it, it's hard to get it back.
It allows more constraints, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes,
you shock people emotionally, at their core, and then they are forced to comply and shift a little bit each time. It's a forced shift, and then you realize this is the new normal, and it's a great way to push people in a direction, isn't it?
Yes, and the old analogy about the frog in the water, as you bring up 1 degree a minute, he never realizes until he basically burns himself up. Dies
Yeah, he's
from
boiling. Yeah.
boiling. Dies from boiling. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Boiled
That's
frog. Still
very.
not on my menu, but some people enjoy frog legs. It's like, I don't think
You can't
so.
find those in Thailand, can you?
They're here. They're frogs. They've got all sorts of food here, but frogs, I don't think that's going to be on my menu. I follow a different dietary cuisine. They got.
I grew up in Tennessee. I'll just won't comment on frog legs. So, but I grew up in Tennessee. So,
Okay. And why did you choose fiction? Why wouldn't you write about, I like to ask authors that because most people have an expertise and they
Mhm.
write about it and they use it as a tool to either get into speaking engagements or to validate their past. Oftentimes it comes from validation. In your
Yes, sir.
particular case, I'm sure you could write about the Pentagon. I'm sure you could write about XYZ military experience over 24 years. And tell me about the fiction route.
That that's a great question, and if I could give you a straight answer, I would. But I think fiction gives you an ability to talk about what you want to without actually having to hit hard examples. So I can kind of expand and move it where I want it to go. It's a space opera, which I'm going to embarrass myself here. When I talked to my publisher, she says, "This is great. It's a space opera." And I'm like, I don't know what a space opera is. And apparently I just wrote one and I didn't realize it. And I do know now what it is now. But it allows you to, again, I wanted to pursue these issues that I think we need to address. And by moving them forward into fiction, I can move in that direction. And I'll give you one, and this is from the book. And the captain, his social justice officer, comes in, who is, think, a Soviet political officer. That's kind of what I modeled him off of. And they've got a crew member who wants a prostate exam. And the doctor's right behind him, and the doctor's old school. Mad as, can I say HELL on your? He's mad. He's mad. So and the captain sits here, and the captain's the protagonist. He goes, no problem. Just give the crew member a prostate exam. And he goes, I can't. He don't have one. And the political officer goes,
Oh
you
my
don't use that
gosh.
word here. You don't use that word he,
Oh
or
my gosh.
she can't have one. He goes, you don't use that word. And goes, you know what a prostate exam is? And I won't go from there. But that allows you to talk about some of the absurdity of the issues in fiction that you can bring up that you can't really bring up in the past or in current, but you could say going forward, this person wants a prostate exam. Well, there's a problem. This person don't have a prostate.
Oh, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. And you brought up a point. In fiction, you don't have to have facts that can be confirmed or
correct.
verified.
Yeah.
And you can
Correct.
write because it's fiction.
Yes.
But
And I hate to say it, but a lot of times I thought I came up with some really great idea only to read it the next day in the paper. Like, oh, well, there went that one. I thought I was out in front of some of the stuff we were headed to. And I read about, oh, well, there we go. Whiteboard, for example. I use non-color board. Well, I've since read that whiteboards apparently in certain people are not the word to use. Like, oh, come on, guys. I say,
what?
I forgot where I heard that, but if you Google it, you'll
What?
probably find it. Someone said a whiteboard, the word field. We're not supposed to use the word field. I mean, and again, these are obscure. These aren't, mainstream ideas, but they're out there, and some of them
What?
catch. I have read both. I apologize, I can't give you the source right now, but where
No,
the
that's
word
fine,
field,
but you can't use whiteboard. And what was the other one? Field?
field, the word field, like
Now
baseball.
I understand whiteboard. I could dig into that very easily because of the color choice. But
Yeah.
what is the field issue?
Well, again, and this is actually about a year ago, I believe I was writing, and it was fields of cotton, what have you.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh. Oh my
again,
gosh.
again, now these, that's one thing scary about the internet, as you probably know. You can put anything out on the internet and say what you want, whether you should or not. But I did have read that from again somewhere that that was considered an offensive word just because
Well,
of
how do
the.
you change it then? It's a legitimate word in Webster's.
I don't.
What do you replace it with? I understand where the whiteboard comes from, but it's a board that's white and
It's
you
white.
write on it because white is the easiest background to write color on. So we have
It,
contrast and it
it,
appeals.
it, it's hard. Again, I use the term the non-color board for that reason. And again, I read after I wrote that, I read where someone had brought up the fact that whiteboards were offensive for our put the ism on it, whatever. So
Well, and when we were in school, I'm going to presume we're in the same age bracket. We used blackboards. Was
blackboard.
that
Yes, sir.
offensive too? They went to
I,
whiteboards because they used to be
yeah,
blackboards because chalk was white.
chalk was white.
Had nothing to do. They had no racial undertones. Nothing to do
I,
with it.
I think you'll like my book.
Am I preaching to the choir, as they say?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I like to think I'm open-minded. I understand that, things, I grew up one way and I don't, but there comes a point where you say, come on, guys, you just taking this too far. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Let me shift. I'm going to tap into your background a little bit because I'm interested and I think it's interesting. And you can share and shed some insights. Got the books. You've got a lot of avenues you could go down because of your military background and working for the Pentagon. Are we going to war with Iran?
Um, I'll quote a friend who's a very smart guy, a Navy captain, much smarter than me. He thinks we've been in war with them since '79. And if you look, they have killed a lot of Americans with IEDs, the Beirut bombings. Um, Personally, I say no. And I hope, and again, I know nothing, but the hopefully what we did took care of enough. You really hope that the people of Iran would just get rid of these guys,
Realize. Yeah,
realize what they're dealing with. Now that's probably very American to think that.
I
I
know.
personally I personally thought when we got rid of Saddam Hussein, I was going to be kumbaya there because they were a very intelligent, very educated population, and I was thinking they're going to get rid of him, and Iraq is just going to prosper. Well, um, a guy, a few years, I read A Brief History of the Middle East. I forgot the author, but about 50 pages into that book, I realized, okay, the people in charge of this war did not read this book because there was not going to be a democracy in that part of the world. Just too much animosity among Sunni Shiites. But to answer your question, I don't think we'll go to Iraq, go to war with Iraq. Now, Israel is going to keep doing what Israel needs to do. They have a history of the Holocaust, and they're not going to let them get a nuclear weapon. And kudos for them, because man, that was a brilliant air operation. I don't know that I've ever seen one in my military career as well executed as what they did. But the answer, I think not. I think not.
China. Too much
That's
at stake.
In 1913, if you read book, there's a book out there in 1913. If you read the whole book, it goes across the entire war, or the entire world. There's not one thought of World War. And then the Archduke from Austria gets murdered, and next thing you know, we're in the bloodiest war known to man. So, yeah, economically, there's no sense for us to go toward China. Will China, I find it really hard. They would invade Taiwan, but um, uh, um, nations go to war for honor, interest, and fear. And honor may be enough where they would go to China. I mean, you take Taiwan, and we do what we could. Who knows, if we'd be successful defending it or not, if they would. But
Well, we
I'd like
can't lose it. They produce all the without semiconductors, we fold as a world.
it would be ugly, wouldn't it? It would be ugly. I mean, and how much we could do over there, that far away. You just like you just wonder why someone would they even they'll get Taiwan eventually if they just play their cards right. They'll probably be able to bring them in 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. But would they go force now and do it? And what could we do to stop it? It's one of those things you hope not. Good Lord, we don't need another land war in Asia. Those don't work well for us. So I would hope's not a strategy, but I sure hope we don't end up in a land war with China.
Yeah, that would be. So what's in store for Christopher?
Um, basically I've done 40 years active duty with the Air Force. And I was a civilian for the Air Force for a while. I'm helping out a friend on doing a little bit of work for him, still military related. Um, my intent was one book. and that was it. Again, I was it. But then talking to the Defiance Press, and they got me writing again. I'm already writing what will now be the fourth book, and I'm already lining up a fifth book. So as long as my wife doesn't get too irritated with me trying to bounce all these crazy ideas off of her and stuff like that, I'll probably slowly try to write. And I'll be on a cruise ship every time my checkbook will allow me to be on a cruise ship.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I've teetered with the idea of getting on one of those cruise ships for a year that tour the world. I thought about it, and then I realized not yet, but I don't know when.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like cruises. I've been on a few, and but you come back so fat. I'm worried about my weight and blood sugar levels because there's never an ice cream counter I can't say yes to. I've had to give that up because of some health issues, but I still think I started to salivate a little bit thinking about a cruise ship. The food's so good.
Yeah, I would love them to death. Yeah, and I'd be on one every week if I could. But like you say, blood pressure, weight, money, a couple of reasons I'm not.
Yeah, a few considerations. Yeah, but they're good. Well, Christopher, where can people get in touch with you and buy your books, and what exists now and what's going to be coming up in the future?
Well, the book will be coming out. It looks like about fall now. They've had a little delay on it, but it'll be on Amazon.com, and I believe Defiance is going to send it out worldwide. They've just extended their distribution. If you, I have a web page. It's under WordPress, but it's Coyote author Apollo Wept. If you Google those, it'll pop up on Facebook and all the other ones. So. But I do have a web page which has a newsletter sign up, which would be the best way, because I've got a overture, which is I wrote to the 7 main characters leading up to the book of Apollo Wept, kind of gives their history leading up to the book. And I'm going to have that out here shortly. It's for free. And hopefully at some point, I'm trying to get the first 2 chapters out for free. I'm waiting on my editor to get that because there's some work with that to be done. But that'll be available for free. And I have a newsletter again. If you do Apollo Wept, Coyote, which is what I'm writing under, that's my call sign from the Air Force, it should pop up and they'll find it and sign up for the newsletter, and you'll be the first to see all of it.
Great. Well, Christopher, it's been a pleasure having you here today. Again, a barrel full of good luck for you and rolling these books out. It's always exciting to talk to authors, and you're in a rare class, not only just becoming an author, but then planning a series. That even becomes less. It's like certain people graduate college, you get a bachelor's, fewer go to master's, and then of course the PhD. But that's a rare class, and I want to applaud your efforts. And again, thank you for your service to our country. And we will have you on again once you have your next book ready to roll.
Great. That sounds great, Mitch. And I can't thank you enough for putting me on here. This has been truly an honor and a pleasure. And I tell you, it's been very enjoyable as well. So
all right.
Thank you very much for this. It's been a wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Amazing Authorities Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more experts like you rise to the top. For behind-the-scenes access and free resources to boost your authority, head to MitchCarson.com. Until next time, stay amazing.